Okay, so that is it for the groups. We're gonna do very quick follow through with our brackets because obviously they've changed from what we initially thought. I had Andre had his bracket is like blown up.
Oh man, do we even need to do this? I mean, it was just wrong. It was wrong. Let's put it that way. I was very wrong about a lot of things. It's fine. I like being wrong.
And I was fortunate in the sense that I only got 2 teams wrong in my bracket.
Oh.
And I was like, on that final day, the group C, like Sweden and Netherlands, I was like, y'all do not mess up my bracket. Sweden, get it done. Don't mess up my bracket.
Honestly, this is why I don't. This is why I choose to react to things that are happening, because trying to preview things just ain't ever my thing. Like, because I can, again, y'all saw it. I could talk myself into many things, and I get blinded by many things. And that Norway team blinded me. Never again. I will reiterate. Never ever again.
Okay, so in case you weren't aware, we'll just do like the brackets as they are, like both sides. So in the first side of the bracket, or the one side of the bracket, we have England versus Spain, which is going to be on, what time is it on Wednesday? 3 p.m. Eastern?
I think all the games are at 3 p.m. Give me 1 second. I will tell you. Yes. Yep. All the games are 3 p.m. Eastern.
Perfect. All right. That's great for me too, because that works out at work and all that kind of stuff. But like, yeah. So we've got England versus Spain on Wednesday at 3 p.m. We have Sweden versus Belgium on Thursday at 3 p.m. Then we have Germany versus Austria on Friday at 3 p.m. And then we have France versus Netherlands on Saturday at 3 p.m. Yes, that's right. Yeah. So England, Spain, Sweden, and Belgium on one side of the bracket. And on the other side is Germany, Austria, France, and Netherlands. Andre, who are your picks to go through?
Oh, putting me on the spot.
Yeah.
I just said I hate predictions.
Come
however,
on. This time you might get it right.
I know, right? So I'll go through them all.
Yeah.
I think England, Spain, that's such an interesting matchup.
Mm-hmm.
This is definitely going to be the toughest opposition England has faced.
Mm-hmm.
But also, I don't know if it's exactly going to be like the most defensively resolute option that they could have faced. Like they could have, like if they would have, there were opportunities to face teams that were going to be very difficult for them. Like, I just look at some of the other teams that are remaining even now that could have given them a bit of problems. But Spain definitely has a chance, but I do not necessarily see it happening. I actually think England is that good. I think the home crowd plus their performances, to me, and it's really their performances, not really the goal score. The goal scored, of course, or something. And anytime you beat a team, especially Norway with 8-0, like that's gonna pop off, and people are gonna be like, okay, that's you're playing out of your minds. But I still think like the performances overall, game to game, have been quite good, quite composed by England. And I think they've been able to control things quite well. So I'm still sticking with England in that game. I think that they are a very talented team, as we've talked about. And Spain probably are going to run into the same problem that Spain continues to run into. And England doesn't seem to have that problem. They like to get the ball in dangerous areas and shoot. And so I think the contrast of that is really going to pay off with England ended up winning. I don't know how comfortable it's going to look, and depending on how many nerves the players feel being at home in a knockout round. But we'll see. I still think this team is flying way too high for Spain to be able to catch up to them. If Mateus was there, that might change things, but no. So going with England. Sweden, Belgium, don't really need to do a whole lot of thinking about this one. No disrespect to the Belgian homies. Sweden, like I said earlier, I do think that they are doing that Sweden thing where they're gradually increasing in their intensity and their performances. And I'm expecting to see a very, very good, complete 90-minute performance from Sweden that should have them go through pretty comfortably. Kind of the same thing, Germany versus Austria. However, I think that Austrian defense is actually no joke. Problem is, I think they're coming up against a Germany team that is also very much no joke. Their intensity and the way that they go about attacking, I think it's very, very good and something that I don't think Austria has seen yet.
Yeah.
So I think that to me is going to be a very interesting clash. That might be, I mean, obviously to me, like England, Spain is like to me, that's a big matchup of these knockout rounds. But I think tactically intriguing, to me, I kind of have to say Germany and Austria, just given the approaches to the games for the two clubs. They are very different, but they have both kind of mastered what they do.
Yeah.
And so it's going to be very interesting, though you do expect the talent level at Germany to win out. And France, Netherlands. Now this could be like, this is like the Galaxy Brain Bowl, right? Like, who is going to make the weirdest like lineup or tactical decisions and mess their team up? I think on basis of talent and performance, France looks like they got this. This is kind of a really tough one for Netherlands. I don't think that in the particular form that France is in, we haven't really seen them be struggling. Like you said, they had a bit of rest because they didn't have to do a lot in their last group stage game either. So they should be going into this even without Katoto. And I think, like you mentioned, I think they've now understand that Mallard needs to be starting. Hopefully, we don't see a Galaxy Brain moment. But if Mallard's not starting, scratch everything I said. Things will get interesting. But yeah, I think France has this. I just don't see that Netherlands team being able to put it together. It's kind of too late. We would have kind of seen it by now if it was if it, at least for a stretch, and we haven't really seen them be excellent in a stretch. They've been good, but I don't think we've seen, I won't even say excellent. I'll actually define it more than that. I don't think we've seen them play to the level of their talent or capability yet.
Yeah. And
that to me is a problem. So I'm looking at France. So I've got England, Sweden, Germany, and France, basically going with all the favorites.
Okay. So I'm in agreement with you. I would say I'm going England, Sweden, Germany, France as well. I'll start right at the top. Spain are tricky because, like we were talking about before, there's obvious answers to the issues that they have.
Yeah.
Question is, will Vilda actually use those answers to help them out? Because I, for one, would love to see Ethnia against Lucy Bronze once again. That would be fun for me. That would be great fun for me. But is he actually going to do that?
Yeah.
The likelihood is very, very small.
Yeah.
And I mean, not just Ethnia, but just generally all the bright changes, like, Olga at left back and stuff like that. I just don't see it happening. I think he's just going to stick with his tried and tested, which will mean England will go through.
You're correct.
Belgium are not going to have enough of Sweden.
Nope.
Yes, Sweden haven't been great. Belgium are not going to have enough of them.
Yep.
Just facts. Germany, Austria is interesting because, again, you were talking about tactics. And the one thing that really struck out to me is how many Austrians play in the Frauen Bundesliga.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of those Germans and a lot of those Austrians are teammates. They know each other in and out. So it's going to be interesting. Yeah. It is. It's going to be a great tactical matchup. And it's like one of those, like, where, apart from England, Spain, Germany, Austria was the one I circled as well. Just like, I don't know how many goals are going to be in it, but it's just going to be fascinating to watch. It's going to be like basically a chess match, right? It's going to be a chess match, and it's going to be about who is going to make the right moves and who's going to execute correctly.
I was going to say that one's for the purists, right? Yeah. If you like to see
real purists,
that one's for the purists. Like you can watch some of these others and just be entertained, but I have no, like, Germany, Austria could just be like a 1-0 game and it wouldn't surprise me. Yeah, and it won't be the most entertaining. But if you're like a purist, if you're really into that kind of stuff, that's the one I think you're circling, because that one's got some intrigue. Now watch, it's going to be like 7-0. I'm going to look stupid. So whatever.
wouldn't that just be like Germany to be like, oh, like what they did to Brazil in the 2014 World Cup, where everyone's like, oh, we're not quite sure what's going on, and then they come in and they just like,
yeah.
That would just be like Germany to do that. And then lastly, we have France and the Netherlands, and I agree with you. I think France just have too much talent, unless Diacre does something nuts and really messes up the chemistry that they have going on right now. I just don't see Netherlands. It could be something like wouldn't it be like a fun game if it was like 4-3 or something? That would be fun.
Oh yeah, I would. Yeah. I hope it is.
I think I could
Yeah.
see it being one of those games where it's like lots of goals, but France go through.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then, so I'll kick us off on the next round. I have,
Okay.
like, as you said, England, Sweden, Germany,
Hmm.
France is who we see in the semifinals. I have, this is where it gets tricky. I have Germany beating France
Okay.
because, oh, yeah, man. That's where I'm starting to like, I'll start to wobble on her because I'm like,
Hmm.
she's the type to do something,
Yeah.
to just mess up the balance of that team. And then
Hmm.
it'll be at a crucial moment where everyone is screaming at her to leave it alone, and then she'll just do something.
Yeah.
And then that'll be that for France. And because like France is like, I mean, if there was ever a tournament for them to finally get over that hurdle to win a major tournament, this is it.
Yeah.
But oh man, their manager, their head coach is, she gives me pause, right?
Yes.
And then England versus Sweden is interesting because it again goes back to what we were talking about. Whether is it really Sweden just like kind of not quite figuring things out, or is it Sweden just being Sweden and being kind of sneaky quiet, right? If it's Sweden being sneaky quiet, Sweden is through
Yeah.
in that game. But if it's Sweden genuinely not being able to figure things out, then I think England have a great chance.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to take the easy one first because I kind of agree with you. Germany and France. I have to say it because I keep alluding to it. So which means I fully expect it to happen. That at some point, not having Amandine Henry is going to be a problem, and it would be a very big problem for me against Germany.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I'm expecting that to really be a concern for them. And as great as the attacking challenge they have, I think that the pressure that Germany puts you under and not
Yeah.
being able to pass out of that or move or be clever enough to get away from that is going to cause them some problems. As good as Mateo has been, as good as Gallardo has been, Henri is a player who just naturally does a lot of that work and can stop high octane kind of attacking teams, as we saw in the Champions League. Again, this is something that you can do that she's very good at doing. Neutralizing teams that like to do that, especially get high turnovers, create a lot of chances in and around the box. She's good at shutting those lanes down and attacking those players when they get close to the box and causing those turnovers. So I think you do run into a problem by not having her as an option when you come to this game. So I'm looking at Germany being able to beat them for that reason. England, Sweden. This is the tough one because despite the level of competition in their group, England has been flying. The home crowd is a thing. They're excited. They are a fun, exciting team. You mentioned Kara Walsh. They have they don't, it's not just that they've been bombing forward, they have been composed in midfield as well. You know, Kara Walsh has been a big part of that. And I think that it's allowed Fran Kirby and even Georgia Stanway to have a lot of fun,
Yeah.
going forward. When you have them kind of probing, central defense, and then you have the wingers they have, it's a problem. Now, the caveat is, who are they going to start at the 9? If they start Ellen White, I think Sweden will be thankful that they do so.
Oh yeah, they'll be
They
delighted.
can mark Ellen White. Magda can mark Ellen White in her sleep. She is fine with it. She's good with it. And that's honestly, and I don't want to sound like Ellen White at this stage of her career should not be asked to start games like this. We've talked about Pop before and what she's done and older players finding their roles on the team. And I do understand that Ellen White can come up with goals sometimes. But what she's done a lot in this tournament is I think she had that one goal. Basically, Fran Kirby, if she wouldn't have kicked it across the line, it was going to be a goal because Fran Kirby just curled it basically around. It was a wicked shot. And shot cross, who knows? It was probably a cross because that's kind of what Fran does, but it was going into the goal anyway. And then, of course, Ellen White had that dive to earn a penalty. So she'll do those things. But if you want exactly, but if you want solid, more variety in your center forward play, I think they have to go somewhere else. So I'm going to be very interested in the game tomorrow or today, if you're listening to this on the day.
Yeah,
that I'm going to be very interested to see who starts the Spain game. If they're resolute in Ellen White, I think that even bodes well for Spain because I think Mapi Leon can handle that. Like the
Yeah.
Spain Central handled that. So I have questions, and that's why I have such a hard time making this decision because I do think that Sweden is like they're doing that thing. They're doing that thing. Also, injury wise, they're pretty solid. They haven't really had like anything. They're still in good shape there.
Yeah, I think
Whereas
so.
some of the
I
other
haven't
teams
heard.
have had
Yeah,
some.
I haven't heard any big injury news, at least not to my knowledge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm. You know what? Also, you know what? I did all that talking. I could have just said, simply when you go all in the it's coming home thing, it just doesn't come home. So, that's really the only analysis I needed. So I'm going with Sweden. How about that? Sweden, Germany final. That's what I'm going with.
So yeah, I mean, Sweden Germany file is what I came up with as well. And I mean, I said, sneakily England could get there too.
Yeah.
But whether it's Sweden or England playing Germany, this is where I was like, it doesn't matter who they're coming up with. I think Germany's gonna win it. If they make it to the
Ooh,
final, I think Germany's
interesting.
gonna win it. The reason why I say that is because it's that famous quote, right? Football is a simple game. 22 players chase a ball for 90 minutes, and in the end, the Germans always win.
Yeah, yeah. Yes, I could see that. You know what? Here's what I will say. If Germany play England, Germany wins. If Germany plays Sweden, Sweden wins. That's how I'm feeling. I've got a lot of faith in that Sweden team.
Yeah, you know what? Like, I don't think it'll be an easy win for Germany if
No,
they play Sweden in the final.
no. I think it'll
Um,
just be an experience thing at the time. Germany has relied on, Pop and some, veteran, like they have a good mix. But I think in terms of players who you really need to see step up in some of these matches, especially like given the variations in attack that you're going to need to have, some of the younger players can do these things and be a little bit more energetic, bring a different energy. And I think Sweden can handle that. Whereas I have concerns about a back line like, England being able to handle something like
mm,
that. So that's where I'm kind of look at it and say if Sweden's the one to get there, I think Germany won't have as much success against them as they would have against England. So I'm looking at Sweden being, and again, it probably won't be pretty. Germany may have a lot of the ball, a lot of the chances. It may even be a penalty or two or something that Sweden get. But I think something like a 2-1, maybe even 2-0, it might be hard to get a clean sheet versus Germany if they make it to the final. But yeah, I think either way, to be honest, if we get to this final, like the final four that we're thinking we're gonna get to, we're gonna have a damn good final.
oh yeah,
So I'm
oh yeah,
excited.
it's gonna be fun. Yeah, I mean, it's funny in the first bracket that I did, I said Sweden were gonna go all the way, didn't I?
Yes, you did.
The only reason is that Sweden, man, they when they get to the final, it's just like always the bridesmaid, never the bride, never the bride.
But
And
so I have a question. We mentioned earlier how pissed off they were receiving their silver
yeah,
medals.
yeah, that's the thing.
Do
That's
you
like
think
playing in
that
my mind
that
right now.
changes things? Because that's a team that is very hungry and very frustrated at where they've ended up. And they
I think
can do something about it.
I think with Sweden, it's going to depend on how they perform in that semifinal.
Yeah.
I think if they're not great in that semifinal, they're not going to get it done in the final. But I
Yeah.
think even if it's a tough one in the semifinal, even if it's like a 1-0 win or a 2-1 win or whatever, even
Yeah.
if it's like a tough one in the semifinal, but they play well,
Mhm.
then I can see them winning in the final. Because you're right, they have much more experience than Germany does.
Yeah.
So when it comes down to it, when it comes to like really tough moments, they just have too much experience over Germany. I think that if that's the case when they get into the final, they will win the final. So it's all dependent on that semifinal. Like how are they going to perform that semifinal?
And to me, it's not even just about the general experience. I'm using experience in the full, like in the contextually, given
Yeah,
what they've been through recently, the frustration about the silver medal and all of that. Like they are not just going to be like, we've gotten here before. This isn't like too big for us, but we've gotten here before and we're pissed off because our performances weren't good enough to win. and they will be very wary of that happening again and will do all they can to make sure it doesn't. Whereas I
Yeah.
don't think this Germany team will have can possibly have, because they don't have that experience yet.
Yeah, they don't
They
have
haven't
that.
had those
Yeah,
results to be
that
able to
bitter
give
taste.
them
Yeah.
that. Yeah, and so I think, and I think this Sweden team, you know, the whole got that dog in them analysis, Aslani,
Oh
she got
man,
it.
I'm really
She
hoping,
got
because
it.
at the Olympics I was like thinking that's it, that's her tournament. This is the tournament where she's just gonna literally ride it all the way to that gold medal, and it
Yeah,
didn't happen. So maybe it'll happen this time. Like, yeah,
yeah.
I don't know. My only thing is if they face Germany in the final, that right hand side where I'm assuming it's gonna be Svenja Huth
Mhm.
against Joanna Anderson. Anderson has not been great.
Well,
Anderson has not been
as a,
great.
as a Chelsea supporter, I can tell you it has not. That's why she's no longer a Chelsea player. But yeah, I mean, they have also been aware of that. So
Yeah,
that is not something that will surprise them. I don't love what they've done. At times they put Magda Eriksson back there, and I
yeah,
don't
and
think
which I don't want to see.
yeah, I don't think that's a great solution. So that is a question mark that they will need to figure out. But I, I, I think their coach is good enough to do so. So I'll
Yeah,
say that. I think their
yeah,
coach is good enough to do so.
yeah,
Whether they
yeah,
do a back three, which they've done before, they could
yeah.
find
They
ways
could
to
do
win.
that, and I think
Yeah,
maybe that might be the smart option, right? To do the back
yeah,
three against, like, let's assume Germany makes it to the final. The back, even against France. Let's say France beats Germany and France make it to the final. I think having
yeah,
that back three will
yeah,
provide cover for someone like Anderson, who hasn't played well in this tournament, hasn't played
yeah.
well at all. So, because anytime she's been faced up 1v1, she struggled.
Yes,
So yeah,
that is the problem.
I might be back on the Sweden train,
I've done it. Yes, I
but I'm
need.
trying not
Basically,
to,
I
because
need you to die on a hill with me. You've gotten the last lot over the
anytime
Norway thing.
I'm fully behind Sweden like I was at the Olympics, they disappointed me. At the 2016 Olympics, I was behind them and they disappointed me. I don't want to do it anymore.
They're due. They're due.
I know they
They,
are due. They
they
are due.
have they
But
have the
so are
talent and
France.
they're due.
So are France. France are way overdue.
They are, but you know, they again, you have to make better decisions at the top, and that's my thing. You know, and then but this is the thing. I mean, this is we've talked about coaching a lot in this,
Yeah.
you know, in this recap, and but it's true. Like at this stage of women's football, it's almost like a lot of teams are caught in between. Like you can no longer get by in these big tournaments or in big matches by just having more talented players, or what, like you have
Mm-hmm.
to know what you're doing with them. And I think there's been a transition started in club, and now it's made its way to the international game. And I think, you know, not to talk about them again, but I think that's where the U.S. women's national team is having problems too. Like you can't just rely on things you used to rely on in the past. You know, just being fitter than everyone is not really going to do it. Like you tactically, you need to find advantages. And I don't think that, like, and I have, like, it's funny looking at the coaches remaining, especially if we get to that final four that we think we're going to get to.
Yeah.
It's pretty clear who are the better coaches among those four.
And
So
they go up against each other in the semifinal.
exactly. So it's going to be very interesting.
I know. I mean, it's interesting because I think I won't really get a feel for who I think will win the tournament until those semifinals.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
I think
yeah.
the I think the quarterfinals, yes, there's a couple of matchups that you're like, oh yeah, they could be
Yeah.
fun. But it's the semifinals that are really gonna clue me in to like, okay, yes, I can definitely, because you get that I don't know if it's like a momentum thing or whatever, but like when you get to, especially of major tournaments, when you get to a semifinal, and you start to see the different semifinalists play each other,
Mhm.
you pretty much know almost straight away, like, okay, this is the team that's gonna win. This is the team that's, unless something crazy happens, this is the team that's gonna win. So I
Yeah.
think I'll have a much clearer idea of who I'm leaning towards winning when we get to those semifinals, after those semifinals, I think. Until then, I'm still, I mean, like I said before, I can see England making it to the final.
Yeah.
I personally don't want it to happen because I'm from a former colony. We can't be having good things happening for England. Sorry, guys. It's
Yes.
just that's just how it is. You ask anyone from the Commonwealth, they'll tell you the same thing.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, I mean, can I see them going all the way? Yes. Do I want it
Of
to happen?
course. Yeah.
No. I mean, I think it'll be
Yeah.
hilarious to get knocked out by Spain in the quarterfinals.
Oh yeah, I mean that's the thing. Like England is always right, no matter how well they're playing, and we saw with the men's team at the Euros that they had. Like they're always ripe for a hilarious result. And
Yeah.
even though it hurt my heart, those penalties, because those are a lot of the players that I actually liked.
Yeah.
It was just funny for England supporters that happened to them. England is always good for something catastrophically silly to happen to them, despite them having great people. A lot of times it can come out of nowhere.
Yeah.
So would it surprise me if they just had a complete collapse after dominating in the group stages against Spain? No, it would not surprise me.
And it's funny because we know a lot of the English journalists, and so you guys are fine. We like you guys. We just don't want good things for the England national team.
Exactly. Yeah. You just got to understand that. I mean, the history is there. They know it. That's the other thing. They know it and they don't shy away from it. They understand where we're coming from.
Yeah.
It's tough.
Now imagine the rest of the world whenever England and the US play each other. It's just like, can there be no winners?
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. It's just a painful experience overall because it's like can they both lose is always the question. So, and I completely understand that, and I get it.
Yeah. Okay.
And having said all this in our breakdown, you know what? It's going to be an Austria-Belgium final.
Oh.
You know how mad the organizers would be if that happened?
I think all the broadcasters, everything, they would lose their minds. They really would. They'd be like, what is this? And we just, I mean, I think, you know what? We're due for like a shock, aren't we?
I mean, I feel like we've had some shocks, but given the way that these teams have done it, I'm obviously I'm not going to pick either one of them to advance.
But we're due a shock. There's always,
listen,
there's always that one knockout round game where you're just like, what just happened?
Well, and that's the thing, the way that they've both done it. I mean, if a team has like a bad shooting day here, basically has one of those days where they just can't get the ball in the net. I mean, both of those teams have the type of game where if they happen to be facing an opponent that just can't get, for whatever reason, whatever happens, some sort of mystical whatever. We've all seen those games where a team is just trying and the ball won't go in. If something like that happens, they're set up to be able to capitalize on that. I'm not going to bank on it happening, and it would actually, to be honest, like given the semifinals we just talked about, I would actually be mad if it happened. Like I'd be happy for them, but I'd be mad if it happened because I think we have the potential for a very good semifinal and final round.
Oh yeah.
So I really want to see that. And if one of those teams sneaks in there and breaks that up, I might be a little frustrated at them. Shout out to y'all for doing it if you happen to do it. But the people want what they want.
Yeah.
And for me, I want to see those four.
We want like a great, like sort of like build up to the World Cup. And what's a better build up to that than that kind of semifinal clash? That would be awesome. Because it means that the final is going to be like, if we get a final between like Sweden, Germany or England, Germany or like Sweden, France, or like England, France.
Yeah,
I don't care. I don't care if it's like 0-0 goes to penalties. Like I don't care. I just want the big teams to go against each other. Yeah,
and this is the funny thing, right? We always kind of talk. I know we're about to be done, but we always kind of talked about it, like in the men's, like, and again, not to like cross sports or whatever, but even in not even the men's, but just like March Madness tournaments. Everybody loves like the Cinderella story, the team that comes from nowhere, 15 or 16 seed, but when they hang around too long, you're like, hey, chill out. You've had your run, you've gotten your publicity, you've had your little cute stories, and everybody's written about you and tweeted about you. When it gets time to like the Final Four, the Elite Eight or something and on in the championship game, know your role. Like, we want to see the best teams, the best players, and I feel like that's the case now. Like, I love you, Austria and Belgium. I love that you did what you did. Your approach was amazing. You got there. You made it. Now, please kindly step aside because we have we have things in our mind that we need to see happen. And if you're in the way, they will not.
Unless it's in the NFL and it's a Tom Brady-led team.
Oh.
Then everybody's rooting for the Cinderella story. Everybody's rooting for the Cinderella story.
I will root against Satan himself, against Tom Brady.
Because we can't take that no more. Fortunately for us, there's no one like that in women's football.
Correct.
We don't have to worry about
maybe coaching, but players no.
Yeah, players no. I mean, we don't have that kind of level of nonsense. At least, hopefully, we never get that kind of level of nonsense.
Correct.
So yeah, no, that's good. I mean, I think we're pretty much done. Is there anything else you want to add?
No. This has been fun, and I'm just gonna sign off with, I'll say I'm never trusting Norway ever again in my life. That is all I've got to say.
All right. All I want going forward is for all the coaches to make good choices. That's my final word. Please make good choices so that this tournament doesn't end up in a dud.
I mean, you set the bar high for at least two of those coaches. So just want you to be aware that you're going to be let down if that's where you place the bar. I know. And I know exactly which ones it is. Exactly. But anyways, yeah. All right, André. We will be back, everyone. We're going to try and do something after the quarterfinals. Mm-hmm. It's all about scheduling because that's just our lives these days. Both André and I are very busy in and outside of football. So we will try and get something up, like I said, after the quarterfinals, before the semifinals. If not, then we might, because usually there's a gap between the semifinals and the final. So if we can't get it after the quarterfinals, we'll probably drop something in between the semifinals and the finals and then just discuss all the previous knockout stages. Yeah. So yeah, we are good. André, thanks for joining me once again. Thanks for having me. I will see you on the flip side, as they say. All right, André. You have a good night. All right.